Have you ever watched a new phone launch, and then later that day you pick up your perfectly fine device and it suddenly feels kind of embarrassing, like it got slower in the last 6 hours? The screen feels dimmer, the camera feels worse, the battery feels suspicious. Nothing actually changed, and yet you're holding it thinking, maybe it is time. That feeling has a name. I call it the upgrade illusion. Because new tech doesn't just introduce a better product, it subtly rewrites the story of your old one until still works starts to feel like already obsolete. And the weird part is, it's not mainly about hardware. In a minute, I'm going to explain how companies can make your device feel outdated without touching it. And I'll show you one tiny habit most of us have that quietly trains our brain to crave upgrades.
Most people think upgrading is a rational decision. You compare specs, you look at the price, you decide if it's worth it. That's the story we tell ourselves because it feels responsible. But the truth is, the upgrade cycle is heavily emotional. It's driven by perception, identity, and something your brain does automatically. It judges what you have based on what you just saw. And I don't want to make this sound like a conspiracy. Some devices genuinely become less practical over time. Batteries degrade, storage fills up, security updates stop eventually, apps get heavier, screens crack, things wear out. That's real. But here's what's incomplete about the typical narrative. A lot of obsolescence is not technical, it's psychological. It's the sensation of falling behind. It's the discomfort of knowing something better exists. It's the subtle fear that your stuff says something about you. And the companies that sell upgrades don't need to break your device to win. They just need to create a comparison that makes your current device feel like a compromise. That's the upgrade illusion. And the open loop I promised. There's a reason your phone feels slower right after you watch a review of the new one. It's not because the phone changed, it's because your brain did.
Let's break down how this illusion actually forms, because once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. It usually starts with what psychologists call the contrast effect. If you walk into a dark room and someone turns on a bright light, everything else looks dim by comparison. Nothing got dimmer, your reference point changed. Tech marketing is basically industrialized contrast. The ad doesn't just say, "Here's our new camera." It shows a side-by-side where the old camera looks like it was filmed underwater in 2009. The keynote doesn't say battery life improved, it says up to 2 hours longer, and then your brain immediately thinks about the 2 hours you've apparently been suffering without, even if yesterday you weren't thinking about it at all. Then there's the second layer, time compression. It used to be normal to keep a laptop for like 5 or 6 years. Phones for 3 or 4. Now we live in a world where there's a new must-have every single year, sometimes twice a year, and it creates this low-grade pressure that you're always behind. And what's sneaky is, companies don't even need to speed up the actual pace of innovation that much. They just need to speed up the feeling of time. They do that by making the calendar part of the product. New model, this year's chip, this year's camera bump, this year's color. So your phone isn't just a tool anymore, it's a timestamp. And anything with a timestamp starts to age the second you buy it. Now layer 3 on top, and this one is the most personal, identity. Phones, earbuds, watches, laptops, they're not just devices, they're objects we touch all day long, in public, around friends, at work, on dates, in meetings, in photos. So they become social objects. Not because you're shallow, because you're human. If you've ever felt a tiny ping of insecurity pulling out an older phone when everyone else has the new one, that's not you being bad with money. That's your brain doing social math. Am I keeping up? Am I the kind of person who has it together? And the tech industry is very aware of that. That's why so many upgrades are marketed around lifestyle instead of function. Not you can do more, but you will be more. More creative, more productive, more organized, more attractive in group photos,
more like the person you want to be. Here's the contradiction, though. A lot of people upgrade thinking it'll bring relief. Relief from lag, relief from low storage, relief from embarrassment, relief from that constant feeling that something is slightly off. And it does, for a few days. Then your brain recalibrates. The new phone becomes normal, and your attention shifts to the next friction, the next missing feature, the next comparison. So the upgrade didn't remove the anxiety, it just moved it forward in time.
That's the hedonic treadmill in tech form. And it's not your fault. Your brain is designed to normalize improvements quickly, because novelty is not meant to last forever. Now let's talk about something more concrete, because I want this to stay grounded. Why do older devices sometimes actually feel worse over time, even when you're not comparing? A big part is software weight. Apps get updated for newer hardware, cameras start doing more computational photography, operating systems add features, everything becomes more intelligent, which often means more processing in the background. Your 3-year-old phone might still be powerful, but it's now running a version of the world that assumes you have a newer chip and more memory. That doesn't mean the company is secretly sabotaging your phone. Sometimes it's just the reality of keeping software modern and secure across millions of devices. But from your perspective, it feels like betrayal. I paid for this. Why does it feel worse? And that feeling is exactly where the upgrade illusion hooks in. Because the moment you feel friction, your brain starts scanning for an exit. And the easiest exit is a purchase. Let me tell you a small story. A friend of mine had a phone that was genuinely fine. No cracks, camera was good, it did everything. But the battery was down to the point where they were charging midday. Not a disaster, but annoying. They were convinced the only solution was a brand new phone. I asked, "Have you checked the battery health?" They hadn't. They replaced the battery for a fraction of the cost, and suddenly the phone felt new again. Not just operationally, emotionally. Because what they were really buying wasn't a device, they were buying the feeling of smoothness. The feeling of, my life is not being interrupted. And here's the punchline. The market loves when you confuse a fixable friction with a full replacement. Because replacement is expensive, fixes are boring. Now, remember the open loop? The tiny habit that trains your brain to crave upgrades? It's this. Most of us constantly monitor micro signals that make our devices feel fragile. Battery percentage, storage bars, your iPhone is running out of space. Your device may be slow. The little warnings, the tiny red numbers, the constant performance checking. It turns your phone into a health anxiety machine. Even when everything is fine, you're watching it like it's about to fail. And when you live in that mindset, the new phone isn't just cool, it becomes safety. That's powerful. And it's also why people who are otherwise calm and logical can suddenly feel an almost urgent need to upgrade. Because the story in your head isn't, I want a better camera. The story is, I want to stop worrying. Which brings us to the turning point, because once you understand that, you can choose upgrades instead of being pulled into them.
Here's the realization that changes the whole game. A new device doesn't automatically make your old one obsolete. It makes it comparable. And comparison is what creates the sensation of lack. So if you want to be someone who uses tech without being used by it, you don't start by asking, is the new one better? Of course it's better. That's literally the job. You start by asking a calmer question. What problem am I actually trying to solve? Because new is not a problem, it's a feeling. So I want you to do a quick future self visualization with me. Nothing dramatic, just honest. Imagine it's 3 years from now. You're not living in a cave, you still enjoy tech, you still buy good stuff, but you're not constantly itching for the next thing. You pull out your phone and it's not the newest model, and you don't care. It works smoothly because you've maintained it, you replaced a battery when it mattered, you set it up in a way that doesn't stress you out, you don't stare at the storage bar like it's your blood pressure. And here's the part that's almost hard to imagine if you're in the upgrade cycle right now. You're not thinking about phones that much. You have this quiet confidence that your devices serve you, not the other way around. And maybe, this is the understated part, you've kept a few extra $1,000s over those years by not treating new like a necessity. Not because you deprived yourself, because you stopped paying an anxiety tax. That's the real upgrade, not the device, the relationship. So how do you actually do that in real life without being extreme? Let's make it practical.
The first thing I do is separate friction from fantasy. Friction is real. Your phone dies midday. Your laptop can't handle your work apps. Your screen is cracked and you can't see. Your storage is constantly full. Your device no longer gets security updates. Those are actual functional constraints. Fantasy is I saw a cinematic video mode and I felt behind. Fantasy is my photos might be better. Fantasy is people will notice. Fantasy is this will make me more productive when the truth is your current device already does the work and what you're really craving is a fresh start. And look, craving a fresh start is human, but you can often get that fresh start feeling without a $1,000 purchase. Sometimes it's cleaning up your home screen, resetting notifications, unsubscribing, replacing the battery, deleting the apps that make the device feel chaotic, even doing a backup and fresh restore. It's boring advice, which is why it works, because it addresses the real source of stress, friction and mental noise. The second thing is I give myself a waiting window. When you see a new device and you feel that spike of wanting it, that feeling is real, but it's also temporary. It's basically a craving. So I like to wait long enough that the craving has to prove it's not just novelty. The third thing is I do simple math that cuts through vibes. If a phone costs $1,000 and you keep it for 3 years, that's about $28 a month. If you replace a $1,000 phone every year, that's about $83 a month. And if that makes you go, okay, but I can afford it, sure, maybe you can. But ask a deeper question. Is that monthly cost buying genuine utility or buying relief from comparison? Because those are two very different purchases, and one of them never stays satisfied. The fourth thing is I try to avoid upgrading out of public pressure. This is subtle, but it matters. If you notice your desire to upgrade spikes after being around certain people or after scrolling certain content, that's not a sign you need a new phone. That's a sign you need a different reference point. You can still enjoy tech content. Just be honest that it's designed to create dissatisfaction with what you have. That's the business model. The fifth thing is I treat repairs and refurb as normal, not as settling. A battery replacement can change your whole experience. A storage cleanup can bring back speed. A refurbished model that's 1 generation old can be an incredible value if you actually need an upgrade. You don't have to buy brand new to get something excellent. And now let me close the other open loop. How do companies make your device feel outdated without touching it? They flood the environment around your device with signals that your device is old. Launches, reviews, side-by-sides, shot on iPhone 16 Pro. Feature names that imply your current camera is basically history. Colors that say this year. Accessories that fit the new model and not yours. App experiences optimized for newer chips. They don't need to sabotage your phone. They just need to surround it with a story that makes it feel like you're falling behind. Once you see that, you regain choice. I'm not anti-upgrade. I like good tech. I think it's fun. I think it can genuinely improve your life when it solves a real problem. But I am very against the idea that you should feel pressured to replace something that still serves you just because something shinier exists. Because the upgrade illusion isn't really about devices. It's about a feeling of not being enough yet. And the quiet win, the one nobody markets to you, is when you can hold a perfectly good device, feel zero embarrassment, and think, this is fine, I'm fine. Not because you gave up on nice things, because you stopped letting novelty define your peace. And honestly,
That's a kind of modern freedom that's hard to put a price on.